Vancouver-Langara.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I'm pleased to rise today to speak in strong support of the Bill 17 Intimate Images Protection Amendment Act. This legislation represents another important step in our government's ongoing work to protect people in British Columbia from the non-consensual sharing or threatened sharing of intimate images. It builds on the Intimate Images Protection Act, which came into force earlier this year, a first of its kind in Canada, and it strengthens the tools available to victims seeking justice, safety, and dignity. Honorable Speaker, this is an issue that strikes at the heart of human dignity. It's about the right to control one's own image and identity and the devastating harm that occurs when that right is violated. Every one of us has heard from constituents, from parents, from young people who have experienced or know someone who has been a victim of image-based sexual abuse. These are not isolated incidents. They are deeply personal stories of betrayal and humiliation that can destroy a person's confidence, reputation, and mental health. In my constituency, a young woman shared with me how, after ending a relationship, private images she had shared with her partner were distributed without her consent. Within hours, those images were online, circulated among strangers. She told me she couldn't bring herself to attend class or even leave her home. She said, and I quote, "It wasn't just my pictures they took my peace and my sense of safety." Honorable Speaker, those words have stayed with me. They are a reminder that behind every statistic is a person, often a young person, whose life has been upended by this kind of violation. When this House passed the Intimate Images Protection Act in 2023, British Columbia became the first jurisdiction in Canada to create a dedicated, accessible process for victims to stop or prevent the distribution of their intimate images. Since the Act came into effect in January 2024, we have seen meaningful results. The Civil Resolution Tribunal, which administers these cases, has already resolved hundreds of matters. Victims have been able to obtain orders to have images removed, to prevent further sharing, and to receive damages, often within weeks, not years. The Intimate Images Protection Service has provided invaluable guidance and support to those seeking help, particularly young people who might otherwise have suffered in silence. These are real, tangible outcomes, Honorable Speaker, and they show that this approach works. But as technology continues to evolve, so too must the law. The amendments before the House today strengthen the existing Act in several significant ways. First, they substantially increase the damages available through the Civil Resolution Tribunal. Under the current framework, the maximum award is $5,000. This amendment proposes to raise that amount potentially to as high as $75,000 to more accurately reflect the gravity of harm caused by these violations. This is not simply an administrative change. It's an acknowledgement that the emotional, social and economic impacts of image-based abuse can be devastating, and the remedies must reflect that reality. Second, these amendments improve privacy protections for victims. Decisions of the tribunal relating to the damages will no longer need to be published online, reducing the risk of re-traumatization and protecting survivors from further exposure. Third, the amendment strengthens the authority of protection orders and ensures that the Intimate Images Protection Service can continue to collect and use information in order to provide timely, trauma-informed assistance. Taken together, these changes make the Act more compassionate, more precise, and more effective in protecting victims and holding perpetrators accountable. Honorable Speaker, this legislation is part of a larger effort to make British Columbia a safer and more just place for everyone, particularly for women, girls, and gender-diverse people who are disproportionately affected by this kind of abuse. Our government is also advancing work under the Gender-Based Violence Action Plan and the Post-Secondary Sexualized Violence and Misconduct Policy Act to ensure that campuses, workplaces, and communities are equipped to prevent and respond to sexualized violence. This is a comprehensive approach, one that recognizes that safety, dignity, and justice must extend beyond the courtroom and into every part of public life. Honorable Speaker, the non-consensual sharing of intimate images does not occur in isolation. It occurs in platforms, social media networks, file-sharing sites, messaging service that too often fail to act responsibly. We have all seen the tragic consequences of this negligence. The names Amanda Todd and Carson Cleland are seared into our collective memory. Their stories and the tireless advocacy of their families remind us that online exploitation is not a distant or abstract threat. It's happening here, in our communities, to our children. While regulation of online platforms falls primarily under federal jurisdiction, British Columbia has acted decisively within our own authority. This legislation gives the Civil Resolution Tribunal the power to issue enforceable orders and administrative penalties when companies fail to comply. Honorable Speaker, compliance with BC law is not optional. We expect online platforms operating in this province to respond swiftly and respectfully when ordered to remove harmful content and to treat victims with the dignity they deserve. This legislation is also about shifting cultural attitudes. Too often, victims are blamed for taking or sharing intimate images in the first place. Let me be clear. The victim is never at fault. Intimacy shared within a relationship is not a crime. The crime occurs when the trust is broken and those images are used to harm, control, or humiliate other person. By strengthening this law, we send a clear message. In British Columbia, consent matters, privacy matters, and the misuse of intimate images will be met with serious consequences. The threat of image-based abuse is expanding. Law enforcement agencies, including the BC Internet Child Exploitation Unit, have reported significant increases in online sextortion and deepfake cases. Nationally, most sextortion victims are young men, which challenges many of our assumptions about who is vulnerable. The perpetrators are often anonymous and organized, operating across borders. That's why our response must be both adaptable and coordinated, involving educators, parents, law enforcement, technology companies, and policymakers. One of the most powerful features of this Act, Honorable Speaker, is that it embeds trauma-informed practice at every level. The Civil Resolution Tribunal has developed a specialized process to ensure that survivors can pursue justice without being re-traumatized. Its staff receive training in trauma-informed engagement, implicit bias, and crisis intervention. Victims can participate remotely, receive emotional support through the Intimate Images Protection Service, and obtain enforceable orders quickly and privately. This is what modern justice looks like: accessible, compassionate, and survivor-centered. British Columbia continues to lead the country in protecting people from image-based sexual abuse. Other provinces are watching closely, and some are now exploring similar legislative frameworks. We should take pride in that leadership, but we should also remain humble and vigilant. The digital landscape changes rapidly, and we must continue to listen to survivors, advocates, and experts to ensure our laws remain responsive and relevant. Honorable Speaker, this legislation is about justice and compassion. It's about protecting people from exploitation and ensuring that those who commit these violations are held accountable. Most importantly, it's about sending a message to victims, especially young people, that they are not alone, that they are believed, and that their government stands with them. The Intimate Images Protection Amendment Act will make our province safer, fairer, and more humane. It reflects the best of what this House can do, responding to emerging challenges with empathy, evidence, and courage. I am proud to support this bill at second reading, and I urge all members of this Assembly to do the same. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.